What's up, guys? Paulie Malignaggi for Paulie TV. Guys, let's discuss the heavyweight division. It's a quickly changing, evolving heavyweight division this year. And in these months, the second half of 2022 might drastically change the heavyweight division as far as the rankings are concerned from the previous January till the new January. Think about it. We've just had Alexander Usyk beat Anthony Joshua for the second time. That really solidifies him as a unified heavyweight champion. He's been a guy who's fought now 4 fights at heavyweight, and he's gotten better and better each fight. And the reason I say better and better is because, yeah, he may have been less dominant in the rematch with Joshua, but that was because Joshua made some good adjustments. I don't think Joshua got enough credit for the adjustments that he made. And for those of you that say, oh, he should have just imposed himself, guys, it's not that easy to just close the gap on a guy like that. You know what I mean? You got to close the gap in a tricky way. Otherwise, you're going to walk into a big left hand and get knocked out. So for the guys that are saying, he didn't do enough and use his physicality, listen, Joshua would have tried. He tried to technically get in there. At times, he did very well when he got to the body, but ultimately, Usyk was too good in a competitive affair, an affair that I myself, as a boxing pundit and an ex-boxer, found very, very fascinating. The IQ that it was fought at, and tremendous performance by Usyk in getting the win. And I'll give Joshua credit for taking that immediate rematch, knowing that this was a tough style for him to deal with, and really giving it his all in there. I sort of disagree with him trying to or actually getting in Usyk's moment. That's Usyk's moment of victory. You're supposed to, I understand you have your thoughts on things, and there's frustration. And believe me, I'm an emotional guy, and a lot of times I've reacted with the way I shouldn't react in certain situations. And I'll admit that. But I think Joshua, from the outside looking in, I think Joshua reacted kind of like that too, where he was a bit too emotional, and he didn't realize that although there were things that he needed to say, and I don't blame him for having the need to say these things, I don't think it was his moment. He just lost the fight with Usyk. It was Usyk's moment to bask in his glory, with both for his own career and for the people of Ukraine. And I think that he kind of lost that chance to do it in the way he deserved to, because Joshua got in there and started going on his rant, which honestly, I didn't have a problem with the actual rant. I just have a problem with, the fact that he tried to do it in that moment. I think AJ made some good points in his rant too. This can be very, very frustrating to deal with naysayers, especially when you work so hard. And I know AJ is a super, super competitor, and he's hard on himself. But nonetheless, I don't think he did himself a crazy disservice as far as his performance is concerned. I still think he's a top heavyweight, and he fought a very, very smart fight. I think AJ actually hasn't been improving. It's just you don't see it because he's losing to Usyk. But I think, there was some things in that. There were some very, very technical things that he was doing in this fight that I liked a lot, timing-wise and everything. He's been a pretty good boxer always, but he's had a lot of power that have kind of bailed him out in situations. But I think, from a technical standpoint, I liked some of the technical stuff he was doing to counter and offset Usyk. And like I said, I'll be honest, I think he's actually improved. It's just the results aren't there when you're against Usyk. So I think I'm curious to see AJ returning against other guys and seeing if we have some new wrinkles in his style, And if we do, I don't think it'll be new wrinkles because of the fact that he's hungry and he comes off the loss. I think his new wrinkles that he was probably already going to be showing and was showing in the Usyk fights, in the Usyk rematch, but we just didn't notice them or many people didn't notice them because he lost the fight. So that's one way of the landscape has changed. The Usyk entering and really becoming a dominant guy. Tyson Fury a few months ago dominated Dillian Whyte the way Dillian Whyte has never been dominated before. Dillian Whyte, for me, was a guy who deserved the title shot in his career. Was a very good heavyweight, in my opinion. Always entertaining, always gave his all, and had only lost in competitive affairs. Actually, did very well in the fight with AJ when he lost, and then also he was dominating Povetkin and got knocked out, and then came back subsequently and knocked him out in the rematch. So, maybe even in coming back, AJ could do a rematch with Dillian Whyte, who kind of has to come back himself. Both guys coming off losses to guys who have a piece of the heavyweight division, to guys who have a piece of the heavyweight championship. Wouldn't be a bad fight. And honestly, you could kind of reignite that little grudge. I know they have a lot of respect for each other, but I think it would be a fun fight, especially even at this point in their careers. But the way Tyson Fury beat Dillian Whyte was the way nobody else beat Dillian Dillian White. Dominated him in a fashion that really solidified Fury as the top heavyweight in the world. And I still believe, despite Usyk's presence, Tyson Fury still is the number one guy in the world, both for the fact that he's such a big heavyweight, has a lot of skill, and can put it together, both on the back foot and the front foot. And I think he's got enough options and enough things in his repertoire to where, regardless of how good Usyk is, and he's very good, I think Fury will just have too much. I mean, he's a natural heavyweight. But regardless, you got to give Usyk credit. The first undisputed heavyweight champion and cruiserweight champion, two division undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. Ironically, Evander Holyfield did it in the 3-belt era in the same exact 2 weight classes. So I'm curious to see if that can ever this achievement can be matched in other weight classes. But as of right now, it's been achieved by 2 guys in the cruiserweight and heavyweight division. Holyfield did it in the 3-belt era, and now Alexander Usyk did it in the 4-belt era. I think at this point you have Fury and Usyk at 1 and 2 easily. Fury and Usyk are at 1 and 2. I think there's a good gap between the rest of them because they've knocked off the guys that are closest to them, right? Fury knocked off Wilder. For all the intents and purposes, he probably beat them all 3 times they fought, but he got credit for 2 of them. And then Usyk beat AJ 2 times as well. And so they've kind of separated themselves because I think AJ and Wilder, if we go back just a couple of years ago, the fight everybody was talking about that needed to happen in the heavyweight division, the fight everybody was dying for, was Deontay Wilder and AJ. And now, Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury have knocked them both off, beating them a couple of times. So you've now have that massive landscape has totally changed, because that's why, guys, that's why these fights have to happen when people want to see them, because you see a lot of times the ship sails. Even if you make Wilder and AJ now, it's not the same thing as it would have been then when it was just such a mega fight. It'd be a fun fight. I think it'd always be a fun fight because styles make fights, but from a promotional standpoint, you had it in the bag there, man, and that's why these fights need to happen when they need to happen, because you marinate them, and sometimes you wind up like Wilder and AJ did, getting knocked off by other guys, and now we're demanding that the 2 guys that beat them fight each other, Fury and Usyk, and that leads us to where we're going to go next, right? Usyk says he doesn't want to fight until next year. Probably deserves it, probably a lot of things going on in Ukraine still. I'm sure, undoubtedly, he's got family over there and things he'd like to help out with regardless, or, he probably wants to, handle his state of affairs that might be going on over there as well, so you can't blame him for that. Tyson Fury is ready to come back, though, timing-wise, so this doesn't work timing-wise, because one guy's not ready to fight and one guy wants to fight. So Tyson Fury has called out AJ in an all-UK grudge match. I like the fight, but I don't know that AJ needs to take such a tough fight right away. I listen, again, from a fan perspective, I love to see everybody fight everybody, but I think AJ still has a lot of marketability left. And like I said, I think AJ's made some improvements in the 2 Usyk fights to where I don't think people notice them because Usyk was beating him, So, when there's a loss, you don't usually think of guys making improvements and adjusting. But I think AJ has, there's some little improvements in his style that AJ, or some little wrinkles that he's added to his style that I think he's done that really have will make me curious. But I don't really want to see him against Fury because then we're not really going to get to see him work on those things. I'd love to see him against White, where you'd get to see him work on those things, but he'd still be at risk because let's face it, White and AJ was competitive the first time around. I think he could be competitive the second time around, but yet it will give us a chance to see if AJ really is putting those things that he worked on in the Usyk camp into a can he practice them and put them into better form against a guy like Dillian White, who would be tough, but obviously isn't on the level of Alexander Usyk. So who does Tyson Fury fight then? That kind of leaves us in a position where we have to wonder, if Fury's calling out AJ, and that's the thing, is Fury calling out AJ because there's really nobody left for him to fight besides Usyk. Otherwise, if he's gonna have to wait for Usyk, he's gonna have to, sit there and wait, and he's not gonna be able to fight. And I think at this point we kind of know that Tyson Fury is not retired. He's pretty much made it standard and clear now. But if Usyk isn't available until next year, what does he do? Who does he fight? There's it could probably bring us to the next state of affairs. We got Joe Joyce fighting Joseph Parker. That's coming up soon.
He has to fight Usyk. He has to fight Usyk, but that's not going to happen now. So that doesn't mean the guy shouldn't fight because he has to fight Usyk. If the Usyk's not there, you can't put a gun to Usyk's head and say, hey, fight. So the guy has to stay busy too. So we've got Joyce versus Parker coming up.
And if Joyce comes out as the victor, which is expected, but definitely not assured because Parker still has a lot left. He's a very good fighter, and he's very, very crafty. Ex-WBO heavyweight champion, Joseph Parker. But let's say for all intents and purposes, Joyce gets the win. And again, this is not a guarantee here, but just for argument's sake, Joyce gets the win. You have another all-UK showdown now. You have Joyce. You can make Joyce versus Tyson Fury. And that creates sort of an opening for opposition for Tyson Fury. And I don't think Joyce would need a break the way Usyk is taking that, because Joyce is a little bit older, and he hasn't yet achieved what Usyk has achieved. Usyk is also not the freshest chicken anymore, but he's achieved a lot already, so he sort of earned his breaks. Joyce really puts himself in a position where he can be that guy that Fury needs to fight at the moment that he's waiting for Usyk. And yeah, that's not a bad fight. I think he's too slow ultimately and a bit too robotic for Fury, but bro, this guy hits hard. This guy's a big heavyweight, but not as big as Fury. I mean, compared to Fury, nobody's a big heavyweight, but he's a big heavyweight. He hits hard, and on paper, it's something you can sell, especially that they're both from the UK, they're both from England, and it could be a fight that could sell. So that's sort of right there, too. Fury, I'm telling you, when Fury puts his mind to something, man, that guy's tough to beat. He's the number one heavyweight for a reason. I think Usyk is number 2, though. But let's move on to another part of the heavyweight division, the PBC faction, right? We got Deontay Wilder coming up. He's fighting Robert Helenius. Now, Robert Helenius is coming off 2 wins over Adam Kornacki, who, for me, was one of the more exciting heavyweights of the division. Adam was also a kid that I knew since he's about 15 years old in Gleason's gym. Was a pleasure to watch his rise to the top of or near the top of the heavyweight division, and always put together fun fights. This guy was must-see TV. I remember at the time when AJ lost to Ruiz, we were talking about like an all-fat guy fight for the heavyweight championship between Kornacki and Ruiz, and honestly, at that time, I think that's another one where the boat sailed, because that would have been a fun fight, and it would have been a terrific promotion. It would have been such a fun sell. Think about all the promotional quirks and funny things you can do with a promotion like that for the heavyweight champion, unified heavyweight championship between Ruiz and Kornacki at the time. But of course, the ship sailed, as it does many times. As it does most times in boxing, unfortunately. And so that's not going to happen. But Helenius came in and knocked off Kornacki twice. And so Helenius has put himself in a position. He's kind of been a fringe contender his whole career. He's got losses to Dillian White and other guys. He's sort of, not been the most impressive guy, but he's always been hanging around. He's always been tough. He's a big Nordic heavyweight. And he's a guy who I think, has definitively earned a spot. I remember they were talking about Kornacki trying to get a shot at Wilder when Kornacki was getting wins and knocking guys off. But you know what? Timing is everything. Had he beaten Helenius, it would probably be Kornacki getting the shot at Wilder. Instead, Helenius beat him twice, and Helenius steps in to fight Wilder. And Helenius is a pretty durable guy. But nothing really stands out as far as fireworks for him, as far as intangibles for him. Nothing's there. He's just a sturdy guy, and you would think if Deontay Wilder has anything left, he probably knocks out Robert Helenius, because Robert Helenius is not going to be able to get out of the way of that thunder. But of course, on the flip side, Wilder coming off 3 tough fights with Tyson Fury. How much do you have left after 3 tough fights with Tyson Fury? Is there a piece of you that's been left in the ring? And that's the curiosity about Wilder, and that's why you need to see Wilder against a Helenius first before you put him in against other top opposition, where there's bigger and the stakes are higher, and there's bigger and better things on the line. But right now, you're still going to consider Wilder a top 5 heavyweight unless Helenius proves otherwise. That's basically what I'll say. We know where Helenius stands. We got to find out where Wilder stands after the 3 fights with Fury, and that's why you make the Wilder-Helenius fight. I have no problem with this fight. I think it's a solid fight to make at this point, and it's the right fight to make at this point. If you get Wilder as a winner, you know what? Maybe you make Wilder and Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz coming off the win over Luis Ortiz. And Ortiz still, listen, guys, Ortiz still shows himself dangerous. But, he got knocked down a couple of times by Ruiz, and Ruiz just a little fresher. And I think the freshness of Ruiz eventually, and the extra spark the younger fighter has was the difference in the fight. Because Luis Ortiz otherwise is a pretty good fringe contender still. I think he's even more dangerous than Helenius, because the punching power Ortiz possesses is like frightful when it's on. on, when he's able to land it. But, listen, I don't have a problem with Ruiz's performance. He gets the W. He's a guy who, in most people's eyes, overachieved. I mean, this is a kid that I had seen in Wild Card Gym when he was 20, 21 years old. I always knew he could fight. I wasn't sure he was going to beat AJ, don't get me wrong. I can remember, I'll tell you a funny story about Ruiz, working the AJ Ruiz fight, the first one with Sky Sports, and we were in the fighter meetings. We're now in the fighter meetings. We were in the production meeting talking to all the bosses and all the analysts. We were kind of in the meeting the day of the fight, and I just trying to tell the guys, they would not believe me. I was trying to convince all the folks from England that I was working with, guys, listen, Ruiz, I know he's a replacement for Jarrell Miller, but he's not just a regular fat guy. You know what I mean? He fought 6 weeks ago. And let me tell you, I've seen this kid in the gym when I trained in LA years ago. He can fight. He's not, I wasn't saying he was going to win. To tell you the truth, I said he's probably not going to win, but he's going to put up a respectable performance. This guy is not the kind of guy who's going to take a punch to the face and go down. He's got too much pride. I said, Mexican fighters, they're not built that way. You punch them in the face, they actually get pissed off and want to punch you more. So I said, he's not just going to go away, man. I kind of know what kids like this are made of, what they're bred from, and obviously being a North American, I probably had more of a familiarity with that kind of thing than these guys from the UK. But I can remember my buddy Tony Bellew was in the meeting because he was also part of the analyst team, and he was like, no. He goes, this is ridiculous. This guy's gonna get hit in the chin. AJ's gonna knock him out in one round. This is a ridiculous fight, a ridiculous opponent that they got, and it was like everything I had just said. Nobody wanted to listen to me. And again, I wasn't saying, I was the first one to say, listen, AJ's probably still going to win because, this is a replacement opponent and all that other stuff. But Ruiz is going to, he's going to give it a go for a few rounds. That was my thinking going in. Man, when Ruiz knocked him out, it was like the look on everybody's face. I mean, I was shocked too because I didn't expect it either, but I'm sure they were more shocked and I always think of that production meeting from that day. It was too funny, man. I was looking at everybody. I mean, David Haye comes over and he's like, this is the biggest upset since Tyson versus Douglas. This is unbelievable. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, there was Louis Rockman as well. He's like, no, this is the biggest upset since Tyson versus Douglas. This is unbelievable. Like nobody could believe it. I was like, guys, Ruiz was kind of, Douglas was a guy who nobody believed in anymore. Ruiz, like, man, I was like, in America, we kind of knew Ruiz could fight. I mean, listen, this guy had already fought Joseph Parker, and he fought a good fight in a WBO heavyweight title fight, and he'd just come off a win over Alexander Dimitrenko, was a 6'6" heavyweight. It wasn't. I didn't believe it was like Tyson versus Douglas, but that's how my UK friends were all thinking. All the guys that I was working with that day, so that was pretty funny. But nonetheless, Ruiz. I say this because Ruiz obviously shows that no matter how big the heavyweight, he can compete. He can knock the guys out, and he can knock guys off. And so Wilder, if he's able to win and look good against Robert Helenius, I think a Ruiz and Wilder fight sort of fits the bill. They're both signed to PBC. They're both under the same banner, and it's an easy fight to make. And they'd both be coming off wins now, and they could kind of make that fight, and it would mesh well stylistically, and also it would it would be a good kind of crossroads fight to see who elevates themselves to maybe a higher level and maybe puts themselves back in title contention. And both guys, as ex-heavyweight champions, that would be part of the sell as well.
Rank them 1 through 5.
1 through 5 rankings in the heavyweight division. 1 and 2 is easy, Fury and USYK. After that, it gets a little bit trickier. I'm gonna go with Deontay Wilder. I'm going to go with Andy Ruiz, and then I'm going to go with Anthony Joshua. Those are my top 5. Joe Joyce and Parker right on the outside. I probably put Joyce at 6 and probably Parker at 7. We'll see. And this thing is going to keep changing, guys, because these guys are going to keep fighting. And I'm like I said, in these 12 months, even 18 months from the beginning of 2022 to mid-2023, I think this landscape of the heavyweight division could look much, much different. Guys, I'm Paulie Malignaggi. This is Paulie TV. Like, comment, subscribe. And I know there's plenty of opinions on this matter from all of you. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. Head-to-head, who you would like to see fight. And if you think this is going to be fun, I think the heavyweight division is fun right now. I'll talk to you guys later.